Welcome back to Streamline Entertainment. It is Marvin speaking. Isla is talking on this morning's show quite some time ago now about missing teenager Jay Slater, and it was the new CCTV footage found in Tenerife. This was 10 months ago, people, so we're looking back at something. Let's get straight into this because I just want to make some points on what Isla is saying.
Right. And on the final night, he stayed up partying all night when his friends went home, and he ended up getting in a car and going with two males to an Airbnb in a mountainous region.
Right.
And he actually Snapchatted himself. I mean, this is the good thing about youth these days. They take pictures of wherever they are.
Yeah.
The thing is that when you go away and you're on holiday and you're with two guys you feel comfortable with, you take photos of the scenery. My friends, I'm alright. We didn't see any of that. We have heard that is mum and dad knew that he'd been to the Airbnb. Was that during or was it before? That's never ever been discussed at the end of the day, and this is something that the public and the sleuths really want to know.
And then in the morning he went to a bus stop and he spoke to someone and asked when the next bus was. She tried to indicate that it was 10 o'clock and this was 8 in the morning. So she last saw him. He walked, and then she passed him in a vehicle about 15-20 minutes later. So he was walking, but the last point of contact that we have is he phoned his friend about 45 minutes later saying he was lost, he had 1% battery and he didn't have any water.
Obviously, one of the main things is why was he going the wrong way? And Isla didn't even say, who are the two guys, talk about the two guys basically he went off with. One of them was a convicted drugs dealer. The other one, if he was there, was trouble, or whoever else he was there. We know that he was a right-hand man of Ayub's. Whether it was Rocky or whether it was somebody else, it was somebody who we know that is bad news.
And the concern is that he's gone up into mountains because this is where the phone pinged.
But doesn't know where he is.
What they can hold on to possibly is a sighting of the CCTV, which was about 10 hours later.
Oh, okay.
And I think it was 4 miles from the original site. It wouldn't take 10 hours to walk 4 miles. So it's very confusing, and there is speculation that if there could be other people involved, even his mother has suggested.
The thing is what was he doing in Telltide before that? Had there been another accommodation or another narco headquarters in Telltide? It makes you think, because we've had heard sleuths that 8 to 10 witnesses say that Jay was there the day before at some time.
Saying that she thinks he's been taken against as well. I mean, who knows? He's a young man. He was walking. He had on a...
Well, she said, who knows? So basically, that is something that should have been really, really talked about a lot more. Him taken against his will, and rather than he just went off his own back, behind his friend's back. Technically, they did. They were saying basically, come back. We will. At the end of the day, come off the road or phone a taxi or get off the road, try and head back to the Airbnb. None of that, I think, happened at that time. I just don't really see how that can happen, to be honest, or Jay being at that Airbnb at that time, because there's no proof of him being there. And that was one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about the CCTV. I think the friends are hiding a lot, and I don't think they want to tell the truth due to the people that are involved in this case.
A bag with his belongings.
Yeah.
But all we can. I don't like speculating, but that's literally all we can do.
Yes.
Not being found. That's all we know.
And actually, we need people to kind of keep out of the way a little bit.
Well,
all this is being sorted
there's
out.
TikTokers going out and looking for him, and while you might go, that's wonderful for people to volunteer. The police are saying, please don't,
No.
because they're going to. We know what happened to Dr. Mosley. These are extreme heats, and if you're not prepared, not ready. Interestingly, the search for Jay, they found a Scottish hiker, a 51-year-old who'd been missing since Friday. So they confirmed we found a Brit, but it's not him.
Wow.
So
we hadn't heard about him before.
Yeah, but didn't he actually confirm that he wasn't lost? And like I said, he knew where he was going. That was kind of odd because, like I said, we've had YouTubers talk about this guy. You know, was he the one that actually planted the phone somewhere? There's a lot of conversation about that.
Yes, no, he was missing.
Nick, I wonder what you make of the armchair detectives that are sitting at home online, or now, as Isla's saying, going to travel out there?
Well, Isla's was such a cogent recollection of what happened with that case. We know police have confirmed that it got in the way of the Nicola Bully case. These theories, some of which probably come from a good place, others I question. I think there's a degree of malice. It stops the investigators doing their job. Now, put yourself in the shoes of the parents. At least that terrible story happened in the UK, so you were able to understand what's going on. Obviously, you have the language barrier. You have a distraught mother, a distraught father, a distraught family, not being able to possibly get their points across. I read today that the father is now going around. He's had posters, obviously translated into Spanish, so the dad is going around putting up posters. This, to me, would speak possibly they don't think the authorities are doing enough. We know, again, to Isla's point, we know because of various weird conspiracies, the hunters moved from this part of the island to that part of the island to possibly move just when they're in the right area. It is hardly surprising that the level of frustration of those parents, I cannot imagine what it's like. And then factor in that you don't actually speak the local language. It's just nightmare heaped upon nightmare, I would imagine.
Yeah, absolutely.
They just need something, don't they? So fingers crossed we get some good news at some point.
Thank you for visiting.
That was this morning, and Isla on that, who was covering the Jay Slater case. What I basically got from her, she was continued, given details of this sort of what happened to Jay when he left the club, that he went off with two guys, and she technically believed every step of the way, which is fair enough at the end of the day. She was out there, she got that narrative, she talked to some of the people involved in, interviewed Brad. But like I said, I still think there's a lot more to this case that hasn't been put out there yet, and hopefully some of these documentaries will enlighten us a little bit more into this. Let's move on. Welcome back to part 2, people. We move on to another scene. This is by Wax and Filter. Do go and subscribe to his brilliant channel he's got there, and he's been on the Jay Slater case a long time and has made some valid points. I picked up a point, and this was about a stolen boat with criminals on CCTV. And like I said, had the British police or the Guardia Civil looked at this and said, look, is that Ape on that boat? Because it certainly did look like him. Let's get straight into this.
Not involving criminal activity. Now, you guys are commenting about the whole boat and CCTV. Someone commented saying, why is no one mentioning the stolen boat? The CCTV footage of men running into it with something and sailing off an hour after Jay went missing. No.
And that is extremely weird. A stolen boat as well, and guys in this CCTV footage that we're about to watch are actually running onto the boat. It does look like they're carrying something. Can't say it is a body, but I don't know. This is extremely weird.
Now, as you can see, people do look like they're running to the boat, which is strange as this footage has now been deleted by the police, so people are saying. And the time of the CCTV recording is reported to be at 5:30 AM in the morning.
What? So you're telling me that police are deleting footage? This 5 AM in the morning.
It's the exact spot where Ayub said himself and Jay stopped to get a drink, which seems very odd to me.
That is extremely interesting, because Ayub did actually...
The thing is, so if this all happened at the stop-off, then Jay, this is technically saying Jay didn't make it to the Airbnb. We knew that basically they went back to the apartments where Lucy was staying. I think that was a general meeting point because of people turning up there. I think the bosses wanted it to end up on the beach where there was some kind of altercation and then the boat there. That would make more sense to me than Jay being injured and them taking him to the Airbnb where they could have been pulled on the way by police because there was so much going on.
Say they stopped off at 5:30. He was specific with that time as well.
They leave and more people come back, and as you can see, the boat which is circled, there seems to be more than 2 people on this boat, which is reported stolen. Did they take Jay on here?
So the last known location of Jay was in Santiago, where he was last seen with 2 men sitting on a bench just outside
was a quicker route to connect with the people that had this boat.
So, 8:30 was roughly the time when Lucy received a phone call from Jay. Could Jay be on this boat? And shortly thereafter, at about 10 o'clock in the morning, the boat disappeared from the radar. Let me know what you think, guys.
Why would Jay be on the boat? Why did he go to the boat anyway? Now, what I am thinking is the people on the boat were a part of a group that were organised robbers. They were robbing things and they stole the boat, and they had a bunch of bags that it looked like they were running with there that were stolen items. Maybe Jay was involved in some way, maybe in the 3 days of him.
Yeah, it would make sense in some kind of way. But like I said, the problem is that if Jay was doing all of this and we saw him absolutely obliterated in the club on rugs and his friends watching him, that doesn't tell me he could do all this in the early hours of the morning in the state he was in. That just doesn't make sense to me. But like I said, we have so many elaborate, over elaborate stories on this case. I do believe the mover was involved, but I do believe it was to move Jay, to be honest with you.
Being there, he might have stolen a few things from a few places that he was told to go to and steal from, and they had a location where they were plotting the stuff up. I mean, one person did make a good point in the comments in one of the other videos that we've done the other day. I'm sure Jay's mum said in one of her interviews she told him not to go out there thieving. So again, this could link to this, and Jay could have been leaving the Airbnb because he was frightened that whatever he had was valuable, and then he maybe linked up with these guys that are on the boat. Is he still with the guys?
We know that a lot of these youngsters were involved in organised crime gangs, in robbing, in dealing, in laundering money, moving things. I think it's bigger than what we first thought, and I do think Jay maybe owed a debt, or it was Brandon who owed the debt, because like I said, I did get a lot of messages saying that it was Brandon's fault that Jay got taken. So like I said, I do think it was organised crime on a multitude of things, and that should be taken seriously.
On the boat, but then it doesn't make sense with what Lucy's been saying, and then it doesn't make sense with what Brad's been saying. It's his first holiday. A lot of people will agree when I say it would be stupid to do such a thing on your first holiday. However, there might have been people in Tenerife that Jay already knew that was from the ends, and that's what gave him the confidence to go and do whatever he was doing over there. And
yes, that's a really, really good point. And he thought if anything comes up on top, and then the police would help him out like they would in the UK. But we do know the Garda Civil, when they realised it's dodgy dealings or it's around rugs or money laundering, they tend to turn a blind eye to it, and they think, right, he's from the UK, he's doing something bad, let him get on with it. If something happens to him, that's his own fault. That's their motto, technically.
Those past couple of days. I'm not saying this is true, I'm just trying to make sense of this, but it is pretty interesting, I'll tell you that for sure.
Seems very possible. This potentially could have happened. You guys still don't believe a word Lucy's saying from yesterday's video, and I saw someone post this photo of Jay with Lucy and other girls, and what they point out is some good information. They said, I feel like Lucy May-Law has a very dominant character, where lads might even fear her, as she has a lot of control over the situation, and obviously just used Jay and more or less threw him to wayside. Feel sorry for him on this pic. Poor lad knew something was wrong, and just to indicate girls that always wear sunglasses in most pictures so you don't know where their eyes are looking. Often get that when you're out and about, sitting down, but you can tell they're staring at you through their sunglasses, and sometimes when the sun shines down you can see them staring at you. But let me go back to the topic. Something is totally off here, which I must point out, Lucy does seem to wear sunglasses an awful lot, and even in this photo it looks in the night. Why would you be wearing sunglasses in somewhere that's dark? It just makes no sense.
There's something going on, with this Jay Slater case, something very weird. There's just no way on God's earth when you break it down, you would leave your Airbnb that was booked a couple of hours before they turned up, by the way, weird. There was just no way you would leave there on 1% battery to walk up the mountain the complete wrong way after somebody told you the direction. And even further from that, there's a bus stop 2 metres away in front of the house. You just do not do that. And then for the phone's snap map last to be located in the middle of a mountain somewhere, completely off track. It's as if that has been put there to try and divert people from.
That's what I've always said, that Jay didn't have his phone at that time. I've always said that, and it never sat right with me. Where's the CCTV? I think the police were questioned by reporters on the CCTV in the area, and that the police, the Guardia Civil, the mayor didn't want to share that with the public. That is strange.
Other things. There's something going on. I'm telling you now.
The screenshot doesn't make any sense. You can ping where you are. You can do it via message. You can do it via WhatsApp. Why would you screenshot it, then go into WhatsApp to then send that?
I agree, and I still think the mountain area is a decoy. It seems way too professional. Like I've said numerous times, if Jay was in the mountains, there would have been some sort of breadcrumbs of evidence.
Exactly.
Surely.
100%. Someone would have spotted him. That is, what, June time, last June? That is an area where a lot of people, a lot of Brits, a lot of Americans, a lot of Europeans, if they saw someone in trouble, they would have stopped. That's why I don't think Jay, who did that walk, and I remember a YouTuber saying, what if it was someone like Brad or LK who done that walked round the corner, basically walked off-road so they wouldn't be seen by a car or something like that, and then were picked up 20 minutes later or 30 minutes later or something like that. That's a massive possibility. And I do believe it's organised crime, and I do believe this was covered up by AOP to tell us a different story, a narrative that he wandered off and he fell to his death.
They've had sniffer dogs all over that area. Those sniffer dogs would have surely picked up some sort of scent. They would have known that Jay was in that area, but they found nothing. Now, big up BS Media. Make sure you guys subscribe to his channel. Link can be found down below. Anyway, make sure we hit the like button. Do subscribe to the channel if we are new. We've got more videos.
That was wax and filtered on that, and that was a brilliant video. Sometimes we got to go back to go forward, people. Like I said, when you hear the police deleting CCTV, what else have they deleted in this case? It makes you think, doesn't it? Don't forget to subscribe to Streamline Entertainment. And guys, have a brilliant weekend. And lasses, thank you very much.